Hello, this is Nick for Breaker Games, and in this Tips for First-Time Judges, we're going to talk about questing for the impossible. Alright, so, like always, this is one of those topics that comes up on DCC Rocks on Facebook and on the DCC Reddit, but usually in response to first-time judges. First-time judges will ask about things like ability scores or magic weapons or character death, and somebody will invariably respond. One of the veterans will respond, quest for it. And I'm sure first-time judges are probably wondering, what does that mean? Particularly because questing for the impossible is on page 306 of the DCC rulebook. Now, once again, if you are a fan of these videos, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. So let's jump right into it. Now, on page 306 of the DCC rulebook, it says the following. Modern RPGs contain rules defining spells, rituals, feats, and other mechanics for supernatural accomplishments. Raising the dead, improving an ability score, gaining weapon skill, receiving a divine boon are acts of dice rolling and nothing more. DCC RPG argues against this approach and instead makes one simple request of both player and judge. Follow the examples set by mythology and fiction and resolve such acts with a quest. So, before we get into what that means and how I apply it, I'm going to drop this video right here. Right here. Hello, this is Nick from Breaker Games, and today I want to tell you about a Kickstarter project that I have coming soon. It is called Peculiar NPCs, and it is a collection of 54 portraits that you can utilize in your games. Now, why do I want to make a deck of portraits? Well, it just so happens that I found that when I do this during games, players don't make the visual recognition, and I'm worried that my players are going to see important stats and details about that NPC. Whereas if I actually just hand them a card like this and pass it around the table, they make a visual connection with that NPC, and they might even pick up on details about their expression or things on their clothing or what have you that they can extrapolate and, ruminate on during their games. Now, as I said, this is a fantastic collection of portraits from Jamie Jordan and Ricardo Gaspar. You will recognize if you've bought standard DCC products before, these various NPCs from the Standard Courier Volume 1, Hillwood Camp, Protector of Genuine, and numerous others. At this point, the deck is going to be 54 cards, 52 humans, and 2 dogs as jokers. I hope you think this is a cool Kickstarter project. It will be launching in mid-April. See you then. All right, I hope that minute and a half wasn't too long. All right. So let's talk about questing for the impossible. What does it really mean? Once again, as the examples that were set in the text, accomplishments like raising the dead, improving an ability score, gaining weapon skill, receiving a divine boon. Those types of things are the types of things that you should be questing for. Now, I want to link to the ability scores video that I did last week. Check that out because that comes up there. And I said, hey, I'm going to do a video on questing for it. So let's talk about that. Now, I'm going to use 3 examples from games that I have run over the past, since 2017. First, I'm going to tell the story of Ivy and Tall Lone Cutter. Now, Ivy was a character run by my friend Dante. It was one of the very first characters to level up in any of my DCC games, and they wanted to become a ranger. Now, in that time, I didn't have all of these secondary classes that I have created over time. In fact, he is the reason why I created the Outlier class. So what was that all about? Well, he wanted to be a ranger, and I needed to come up with a way that he could become a ranger. And so I said, well, there's a camp of woods folk that are up north of Stennard. You can go there, and maybe somebody can train you. And so he had the party go to Hillwood Camp, and they met with Tall Lone Cutter. At the time, he was just Tall the Woodsman. It was a name that I pulled out of thin air. I started talking like Nick Offerman in Parks and Recreation, and the character just sort of stuck. But I ended up on the fly creating a quest where they needed help because a man-bat was terrorizing this camp, and Tall Lone Cutter needed help, and if they helped, he would then train Ivy to become a ranger. And so, in between sessions, after they defeated the man-bat, then I created the Outlier class, allowing Ivy to essentially become a ranger. Outlier is very similar in a lot of respects. It's a woodsy class. So that was the story of Ivy and Tall Lone Cutter, and how questing for it allowed them to do the impossible. Now, I want to talk about Aloon and the Protectorate of Genulane. So I had this player during the pandemic, my friend Shane. He wanted to go through a training montage when he leveled up from being a 0-level character to becoming a cleric. And so I asked him, what deity did he want to follow? And I spit out a couple of names of different deities. And he was like, I like this Gorhan the Helmed Vengeance. And so in between sessions, I sat down and I busted out like 7 pages. Actually, I think it was 12 pages of content detailing a spiritual journey, a path, the path of the Valorous. Something that he could, go to this tower and meet with these NPCs, and they would give him a quest. And this would allow him to go through this journey to level up, basically like Luke on Dagobah. There would be the opportunities to possibly increase ability scores and what have you. Now, mind you, this was not something that was written. This wasn't something that I pulled off the shelf. Other than finding the name Gorhan the Helmed Vengeance in a DCC PDF that I spotted online, none of this was stuff that was pre-written. I just wrote it. And it became this. It's actually this adventure right here that is available on the Breaker Press web store now. But the point of that story is that he wanted to experience something, and I needed to create that experience for him. He wanted to quest for it, and I needed to create that quest. And so I did. Now, the third story I'm going to tell is one that is more along the lines of what people traditionally think of as questing for it. And this time I'm going to talk about my player Nels in my current campaign. And this was about a year ago, but Kodra, his canine character, 300-pound extra stinky dog that he rolled up, he loves this character. And it just so happened they were in an encounter with the Orange Coven from the Precipice of Corruption, and it was an encounter gone bad. And so people were dying left, right, and center from a spell cast from the Tome of Debasement. You'll notice that I reference a lot of my stuff because all of my campaigns that I run are based around my own stuff. But a spell goes off and a bunch of PCs die and everybody flees. And they leave behind Kodra dead and left behind. And so what did I do? Well, one of the things that I do as a GM, and this is a pro tip, when a PC gets left behind and dead, I still do the recovering the body check. Why do I do this? Because I want to know if this PC survives and is now a prisoner. And in this case, Kodra, I said to them that they might encounter Kodra again. They might not. I made the roll in secret. And sure enough, Kodra survived. And so I turned Kodra into Kodra the Corrupted. He was now a vicious demon dog with skin slowing off and blisters and tumors and all sorts of nasty stuff and a vicious, chaotic demeanor. And so when they encountered Kodra again, they were mortified at the horror that befell their beloved dog. And so they endeavored to capture Kodra because they wanted to turn this corruption around. And so they attacked Kodra with subdual damage, wrestled him under control, knocked him unconscious, and dragged him back to the town of Stennard. And so now I was in a position, they wanted to turn him around from this corruption. They wanted to save him. And so I needed to come up with a way that they could quest for the impossible. And so They had, in Cleft from the Mangled Hills, they had rescued Lyra Lightfollower, so there was somebody in the Temple of Delvere that they could talk to. And Lyra Lightfollower gives them the following quest. You need to go to this sacred hill and perform a ritual at dawn to Delvere. And if you are successful, you will turn this curse around. And so they did everything that was asked of them. And Kodra tried to break free multiple times. It was a comedy of errors, but it was very enjoyable. They fought some sort of ghoulish beings at the bottom of the hill at dawn, and then they got up to the top of the hill and they performed the ritual, had them go through some rolls and what have you, and ultimately they saved Kodra and turned it around. Once again, they quested for the impossible. I created that opportunity for them because they asked for it, and ultimately they succeeded in saving Kodra. So, what does this mean? Well, blessings, resurrections, curses, legendary magic, all of these things are examples of things that are technically impossible. You could have just like a generic role for these things, as Joseph Goodman, says that other RPGs might do, but in DCC RPG, the judge, it's your responsibility. If somebody in your party wants to do this thing, it's up to you to manifest that quest. So, that is my tips for first-time judges. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Additionally, you can support Breaker Press Games on Patreon. If you support at $5 and above, you get something cool in the mail every month, like class guides, pamphlet adventures, etc. Go check it out. All the links are down in the doobly-doo. Thanks, and have a good day.